As I look at the journey of Jesus' life, I have that sense of awareness that he like us, lives in different frameworks of how we are to live. And perhaps as we look at his life and our own life, one of the things that we know is that when we start off in life, we are searching for the way to live in all its goodness, as did Jesus. And in that movement of his life, he was like a sheep. He was counting on the people who were to be with him to help bring God's presence through their concern for him so that he could learn the way to become a good person. And so as we look at his journey, we know he had gone to the rabbi in the synagogue. We know that he was with the learned men in the temple. And we learned that he was with Mary and Joseph. All shepherds in his life. And as he moved, he continued to grow within that context with those people who were with him. And then he became baptized, and what happened in his baptism is something strange took place. He went from being what we might call a sheep, a follower, even that of John the Baptist, to a movement of being a shepherd. His life was transformed, and he found himself no longer a sheep, but one who now leads others in a way of life to seek the goodness of God's presence through his presence. And in that ministry, he called his apostles together. He called them disciples. They were the ones to learn from him, and they also become the sheep who followed him. And he instructed them in the way. Now I know the way. This is the way. Let me share that with you, guide you with it. Be the wisdom person who leads you to find this goodness of life, because this way of life has abundance. As we look at our own journey of life, perhaps that's our own way of looking at our framework of how we live. When we're young, we are sheep. We are dependent on a lot of people for many things. We are dependent on our families to take care of us. We're dependent on people to teach us, people to guide us, people to be with us. And so we have our shepherds, We have our shepherds as we grow up. Our shepherds are those people who are close to us, care about us, help us to form a sense of character and be able to move in this journey to become searchers for the abundant life. And so we have this movement of those great shepherds who have been with us. Hopefully our parents are good shepherds. I know my parents were good shepherds in many ways for me. My grandmother was a great good shepherd. She was a shepherd. I know there were teachers who were shepherds for me. I know there were people who were good movements of presence for me that came out of the priesthood of the church. Many friends who were good shepherds, mentors. I had a sense that the church was a shepherd. It was to teach in that way of doing so. How do you live the good life? A lot of school teachers became shepherds. And so we look at that movement of our journey of life and we say, well, that's our movement too. Then Jesus will say, well, there comes a time, like for his life, that this transformation says, well, you got to stop being sheep. You got to become a shepherd. Because that's where you're called to be. And it's a movement of Jesus' own kind of awareness. Jesus comes with this great statement that he has about, I am the good shepherd. And he says to us, we've got to follow his way and in his path, that we become what he has become in order to be able to experience the goodness of life. And so Jesus says, can we say that? We all say, who are older now, I am the good shepherd. I am the one who brings God's presence. I mediate it. It works through me to the other people who can experience that. And through that, they can find the way to what Jesus says is the abundant life. So as we gather this Sunday, which is called Good Shepherd Sunday, we move with that awareness of this statements that Jesus makes at times. And there's actually, in our movement of journey, is what we are to become. Those I am statements. I am the bread of life. I am the gatekeeper. I am the good shepherd. Many of those statements are saying, can we get to that point where we can say that? And when we say that, can we move with a sense of what Jesus says is the Good Shepherd? It's the one who is reflecting God's presence through our presence to the people we lead to the goodness of the way into God's kingdom. And are we that blessing? Are we that blessing? I would say that one of the movements where we find that in whatever occupation we have, it's good to be a shepherd in your occupation. One of the most important places to be a good shepherd is in families. I think parents, it's important that we have that sense that they become the good shepherds. And hopefully they can say, I am the good shepherd for my family. I'm the one who reflects God's presence and how we grow and live and how we move and have our sense of awareness of who we are. So as we gather this day, perhaps on Good Shepherd Sunday, just a reflected moment. And if we can just stop and say, wow, if we're older and we are called upon to be transformed, we say, wow, I am the Good Shepherd. If we're still searching in our journey of life and still dependent on trying to find our way and consider ourselves the sheep, I hope we find the Good Shepherds. Those who have compassion for us. Those who care about us, those who love us, those who are patient with us, those who teach us, and those who bless us through their presence for us to be able to see God's presence.